which is this House would establish trans-only prisons. And before we get started this evening, we shall read the minutes from last week's debate, which is this House would have the right to bear arms in the UK. So, nothing for our record.
Good evening, one more. Hope we're all well. The 9th Ordinary Meeting of the Literary and Scientific Society took place on the 11th of February and was attended by 55 members. President Sinnott began proceedings by announcing that it was indeed our birthday. There was cake and alcohol and puppies and kittens, and it's just lovely, really. Honorary Life Member Mr. Calvin Black then put forward his amendment to the Constitution for the creation of a new council position for next year, that of Technology Officer. Their duties would include recording, editing and publishing of debates and ensuring the general digital documentation of our society. With a frantically ludicrous amount of preamble, which I forewent for your listening pleasure, Mr. Calvin Black's amendment was passed by the House. Huzzah. Prior members' business was heard from external convener Mr. Ben Murphy, who put forward the motion this House would sack Jeremy Hunt. The motion was seconded, going unquestioned, before the House voted with 6 abstentions, 17 ayes and 0 nays. Mr. Graham Alexander then put forward the motion this House would behead Jeremy Hunt. The motion was seconded, however, Mr. Alexander retracted his motion upon hearing Mr. Finley's suggestion that it could be considered a crime. Miss Sophie Stratford then put forward the motion this House is excited about gravitational waves in black holes. And despite Mr. Finley's intervention that it was less exciting and more terrifying, the motion was passed with 21 to 4 and 6 abstentions. A resounding period. President's questions were then heard from Mr. Andrew Hanneman and Mr. James McNally, who both asked in the Senate if we could continue the debate and start early. So we did. President Senate announced the evening's motion that this House would have the right to bear arms in the UK. Opening for the proposition was former Literatic Treasurer Mr. Harry Adair, who began by stating that he was presenting the only practical case with regard to the rights of the UK citizen to bear arms. He claimed that owning a firearm was a basic human right, and that it could be used to fend off those who violate security measures, as every citizen has a right to life, identity, and security in person. He concluded by stating that we needed to ensure that there are realistic means in which to apply these rights, and that as members of the public, we should have the ability to hold the government to account. Opening for the opposition was Mr. Richard Gallagher, who refuted the assertion that security and protection the assertion of security and protection that was peddled by the proposition, claiming that it is statistically proven that individuals are more likely to use a gun for harm than self-defence. He asked the House to compare 2 specific cases. On the 14th of December 2012, a Chinese man named Min Yongjun stabbed 23 children in Champagne Village Primary School. There were no fatalities. On the same day, Adam Lanza walked into Sandy Hook Elementary School and shot 29 people. 27 of those died. He concluded that since the Dunblane massacre, there has been a 53% reduction in gun crime in this country, and asked the House why on earth would ever want to go back to the way it was before. Second proposition speaker was Mr. Owen Rice, who stated that just because guns are dangerous doesn't mean that they should be banned, informing the House that we may as well ban cars under the same logic. He claimed that the opposition was emotional and not rational, and reminded the House that God created men and Samuel Colt made them all equal. He concluded by saying the most vulnerable people in society, such as the elderly, would finally be able to feel secure in their own homes. Speaking next to the opposition was Mr. Andrew Hanneman, who brilliantly condensed his side's argument by saying that we do indeed live in a society where we don't have to worry about being shot on a daily basis. He also kindly condensed the entire proposition argument into one word: America. He claimed that he already felt protected from any malicious or evil presence in this country, not least the British Conservative Party, his words, not mine, and that introducing guns would only increase public fear. He concluded with the frankly unrepeatable allusion to an armed Michael Jackson appearing in your child's bedroom. You can fill in the gaps yourself. The third speaker of the proposition was Mr. Stefan Ivanitsky, who claimed that opposition was peddling a lie and that they'd likely been playing too much GTA 5. He claimed that a ban on handguns would stop victims being stabbed or beaten. Wouldn't stop victims being stabbed or beaten, and that over 1 million crimes in America were stopped last year alone by the use of firearms. He claimed that eventually it would be impossible to avoid citizens having guns due to the advancement in 3D printing, and that under EU laws we may already legally purchase rifles from pre-1870. Responding to this on the opposition was main speaker Mr. Jason Bunting. He claimed that the fact that massacres have become almost expected in 2016 shows an acute failure in how guns are distributed in many countries. He asserted that guns kill 33,000 citizens each year, and that a failure to implement proper gun control has torn apart the American political system. He concluded by reminding the House that these aren't Cromwellian times, and that we need not for militia, nor the violent rhetoric spouted by the proposition. Included for the proposition was Mr. Finbar Rogers. He began by putting forward that the UK is not the US, insofar as our general populace doesn't believe tyranny is waiting to grab us every time we go out to take the bins. It was at this point that, for no real discernible reason, Mr. Rogers hailed the fact that there is almost no history of gun crimes in the UK, while also commenting that we need more guns. I don't know.
I don't remember commenting we need more guns.
You did.
But that's the opposite.
Concluding for the opposition and so the debate was Mr. Jamie Muller, who said that he wholeheartedly agreed with Mr. Finbar Rogers. He began by asserting that the primary goal of the state was to ensure the life and health of the society at large. In line with this, the only policies that we should enact as a nation should never detract from the right to life. Adding to Mr. Gallagher's allusion to the Sandy Hook shooting, Mr. Muller pointed out that Adam Lanza fired 155 rounds in under 5 minutes. This means he had time to reload. Such massacres simply wouldn't be possible without access to these dangerous firearms. He concluded by responding to the proposition's initial accusation that the opposition argument was emotional. It's not emotional, he claimed, it's sense. Questions from the floor were heard from Mr. Ben Murphy, Mr. Johnny Finlay, Mr. Jamie Cargill, Ms. Gemma Cannon and Mr. Owen Mulholland. A vote based on House opinion was taken, which read 4 ayes, 34 nays and 7 abstentions, while a final casting vote was taken based on Speaker's performance, which read 3 ayes, 19 nays and 6 abstentions. May I take the minutes as read?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So we'll start with some announcements after that. So this week is our schools competition, which is hosted by Miss Lily Better. She's not here right now, so if you would like to contact her about that, it's schools@literature.org. It's an email address. Yeah, we need judges for that, so if anyone would like to judge that competition, or if anyone has signed up to judge, please just get in contact with Lily and she'll add you to the Facebook group or whatever she has set up. And if you want to come along and see it, it should be, keep an eye on Facebook, but I think it's in the SU. Over the course of the day, and they're really good debaters. I think the finals are 2 o'clock on Wednesday, so it should be good. And next we have Literature Ivy, which I believe Ben has a short announcement about.
This is the last announcement I'm going to make on Thursday night, guys, because it's next week. But I just emphasise that we have 5 team slots open for Ivy teams at the minute. I have 2 teams that say they're 90%. Which, to be honest with, isn't really good enough. But I'd just like to emphasise that it's a really fantastic opportunity. You know, if you've never spoken to IB before, it's you get the motions 15 minutes before you make the speech.
It's not that bad, as he said.
Everybody gets 15 minutes to prepare for the debate and then they speak. You don't even have to leave Belfast, so there's no travel costs, there's no expenses at all. I won't even have any reg fees for teams from Belfast that want to come along. You'll get pizza at the end of the night. You'll get a voucher for a drink in the SU afterwards, so you can avail of the 3 for £5 offer for absolutely nothing. And you get judged and feedback by some of the best judges this side of Europe. So by all means, it's a really good opportunity to get any experience with IVs. It's a really good opportunity to improve your speaking abilities and get some really good feedback. So if you want to sign up for a team, by all means, contact me on Facebook or something like that.
Thank you very much. Just a wee quick addition to that, volunteers as well would also be great. So if you don't really want to speak, you want to see what the idea is about, and you can come along and sort of help just run scores from the tab room or to the tab room from the speaking venues, that would be great. So if you'd like to get along or get involved, speak with Ben, who's just spoke there. And next is our AGM, which I am supposed to mention, which is the 15th, I believe, 15th of March. So if you would like to run for any of our council positions, which are president, secretary, external, internal, what else is here?
Bearer of the ashtray.
Pardon? Bearer
of the presidential ashtray.
Not an official council position. We used to have a position on council, I think it was until the 60s, which was the official bearer of the presidential ashtray, but they've since banned smoking indoors, so there's no point. And our open rep as well. So if you'd like to speak, if you'd like to run for any of the council positions, please do speak to some of our council and they'll tell you a bit about what's going on and they'll sort of try and bully you into it. But it is really fun and it's a really good opportunity, and I don't want to say the whole buzzword CV thing, but it is really fantastic for your buzzword CV. So just get in touch, and if you already know what you would like to run for, please send an email to president@literature.org or get in touch with us on Facebook. So that'll be good. And next we move on to private members' business. So this is the chance of the evening where we can have sort of mini debate, anything in the news that you find interesting, any questions to council.
I have a motion for an amendment to the Constitution. In these nanny state times, we are sorely lacking in the role of keeper of the presidential ashtray. I propose we create the role of keeper of the presidential e-cigarette.
Vaping's a bit controversial, I think. I believe that we did discuss having a bear in the presidential ashtray, but it was vetoed that we shouldn't encourage smoking. I think that was the reason. So, would anyone like to second the motion for bear in the presidential e-cigarette?
This society is doing more than palpable enough. Tuck in your shirt.
Anyone got an actual point on that motion? Yes.
Do you smoke?
I don't.
Well then.
Just saying, the AGM, 15th March, any smokers are welcome to come and try to implement the position of bearer of the presidential e-cigarette. Yes, James.
A question, Mr. Murphy.
Yes,
This motion, in any chance, related to be much gossiped rumours of your own soon-to-be presidential run?
I don't even know how to respond to these furious allegations. I, for the record, I'm not a man who vapes. I'm not cool enough. So, there you go.
Thank you very much for insinuating that the presidents are inherently cool. See about the history. Okay, I don't think anybody seconded that motion. I don't think anybody wants to second that motion. Is that true? So your motion is quashed. Would anyone else have any options for private members' business? Yes.
Just a brief thing. I've been informed that our former treasurer, Harry Dare, is listening from Italy. Could we all say hello? Would that be anything?
Hi, Harry.
Buongiorno. It means hello in Italian.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Listening in Italy. Italy. We're here in the weekend. He's listening in Italy. Is that not amazing? Is nobody else amazed? No. Fucking show off.
Okay, is there any other topics for private members' business before I move on to one very brief one from our internal convener from about a year ago? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, myself and the internal convener, Owen, who's at the back, Owen has a lovely blog. Okay? Owen, his face says it all. Owen aspires to be the most famous dyslexic blogger in the world. And I would just like to settle a debate. I think the topic is racism, but I think the debate centres on whether we can indeed be racist towards animals. Okay? Now, it's a question that is featured on Reddit a few times. Yes?
Well, no, I agree with that because if you've ever seen like the dogs that they use for the canine division, they're always like of one colour, they're always like you never see like brown or white dogs.
Can I briefly just read
These dogs are German shepherds. Which are black. There's never been a Pekingese police dog.
Throw me the bell, please. Okay, I'm just gonna briefly read a short section of our internal convener's blog, which does not represent any views of the Literature as a whole, but it is interesting. And let's be real, 212@wordpress.com if you would like to have a look. So I have come to the conclusion that yes, we can in fact racist to animals. Like, let's be real, we are the human race. So there's like the cat race or the chicken race. Is stealing a chicken's eggs racist? If so, then I am a racist in that sense. Like all other species, which has an A in it, like all other species are minorities to us, and we have power over animal, like we have trained dogs to live with us or trained seals to do tricks. So basically everyone is a racist. I'm right, am I not? I just wanted to know your thoughts, because it's been a debate that's happened frequently. Go ahead, Rosie.
Don't underestimate my entire complete contempt for that. But I mean, black cats do struggle to get adopted from the RSPCA. Like, they're less photogenic, so they're not adopted as much. People think they're unlucky, so I suppose it has some standing.
Today another interesting? Yes, Robert.
Can I ask the internal convener if he believes that animals can be racist within their species?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
point, and I don't wish to be too contentious, that some animals are
Being people.
written within certain faiths as well, to
Okay.
be consumed or.
Okay.
Are you suggesting
Interesting.
peace lines?
Finn, please.
Hello.
It's the talking, the back and forth.
Oh,
Like unsolicited or something. Yeah, any other comments on that? Or should we briefly move on? That was, yeah, no problem. Okay, so we'll move on to the President's questions. Today we've got a question for the President, which is me, for a while, for like a month. Yes?
How did you think the Literatic's first foray into the world of radio went in Italy?
Oh yeah, okay, so for those of you who weren't listening, I believe it was Clubs and Socks Day, I think. The Literatic, which, well, representatives of the Literatic, which were me, James McNally, Robbie, Lily, a few of us, we were on... Sorry, Ben and Lily and Calvin, there was a whole list. So we were on Queen's Radio the other day at 3:30, I think, 3 o'clock. And I think it went rather well. I think we're sort of we're considering Literafic's bit on the side, or some sort of variation of, I don't know, Literafic Little Brother or something on Queen's Radio. So whenever we get that up and running, it'd be cool to have some people be guests on our mini show. So yeah, I thought it was good. Any other questions, or can we move on to the debate?
yes, please.
Yes, Grant. You want to move on? No way. Okay, so this week's debate is this House would establish trans-only prisons. Quickly go over the rules. 7-minute speeches, each of the 4 speakers. First minute you can't ask any questions. In the middle 5 minutes you can. If you would like to ask questions during the speech, please be brief. Stand up and say, "Other point, sir, other point, ma'am," and if it's up to the speaker whether they can accept or reject your point. So if they sort of say, "No, thank you," just sit down and polite and ask that. Please try to keep questions sort of separated, so don't ask them one after each other, don't ask them repeated or after someone else has just asked one, or you'll hear shoutings of no barracking from me and everyone else in the room. And I think that's about it. I'd just like to sort of background noise while people are speaking, just sort of try to keep the noise down because it is sort of distracting for them, me and the radio. So on that, I think that's about it. We'll have questions and answers at the end. I would like to welcome our first speaker this evening, Miss Jenna Cannon.
Okay, so you'll have to forgive the unprepared nature of this speech. I was napping 10 minutes before the debate. So my job is to start off with defining the motion. So what we're looking at here is this House would create trans-only prisons. What we on the proposition are saying is that the status quo, the current status quo, which involves men going to female prisons and women going to male prisons, is just not only not inclusive, but it's harmful. People have died, people have experienced transphobic comments, transphobic abuse, and this is not a system that we should be allowing in our modern 21st century society. So, we on the proposition believe that the aim of prison is to rehabilitate. It is not to necessarily punish people. People do not deserve to experience abuse in prison just because they have committed a crime outside of that area. So, our establishment of trans-only prisons would include literally what it says on the tin. Women would go to female prisons and men would go to male prisons. However, this could be seen by some as not necessarily economically viable. There is obviously a transgender population in the UK, but it's not necessarily large enough to warrant its own prisons. And therefore, what we would advise would be that transgender wings were created within the prisons of their current gender. This is the idea of this is to avoid isolating people. We have absolutely no need to isolate women from women. However, this is to avoid any violence that might happen between women and women, and also to provide extra support for trans people in prisons, extra counselling, and to also help create a safe space.
On that point, Lana,
Go on.
what if there's only one trans person in a prison? What would you do then?
Yeah, very good point. So what we'd do then is it's very unlikely that there would just be one trans person in an entire area, an entire prison catchment zone, if you will. Not that this is high school. So what we would do would be that we would create a trans-only wing in, say, the largest prison in that catchment area, near enough so that people's family could visit them and that they wouldn't be disconnected from their previous life, but so that they are able to connect and have the support that they need within the prison system. No, thank you. So, the main aim of this is to avoid violence. What we've seen in the current system is that there has been violence of men towards women and women towards men. This is on a transgender basis and on the basis of people's gender that they perceive themselves as, therefore the gender that they are. And so I think it's kind of obvious to everybody that this is something that needs to be dealt with, and unfortunately, just because women are in a prison together or men are in a prison together, this violence does not go away. We need to offer extra protection for the minorities in our society and extra support and extra help, because it is completely unfair to shove someone into a prison without any thought for their well-being or safety. And this also relates really well to the idea of creating safe spaces. So we talk about creating safe spaces within our universities, in our schools, and within our society in general. The idea of this is to give extra support, give extra help, and there is absolutely no reason that we would not do this within our prison system. Okay, safe space, okay. Any questions?
Yes.
Go on.
Is the intention of putting them into separate wings really meant to separate them from the rest of the prison?
No, absolutely not. So the idea here is that we're not completely separating. The idea is not to isolate anybody. The idea is simply to allow people to have the option of extra support, extra guidance, extra help, if that's what they need and if that's what they require. It's not to separate them from the rest of the prison population. It's not to take away any need to have human contact. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to offer extra support and to give people the help that they need within the prison system, and to allow all people within our society to be treated equally and fairly. Right, so just to sum up, the current system is not what we're looking for. It's not safe, it's not helpful, it doesn't help to rehabilitate, it just makes people scared, it makes people be treated unfairly, and it allows for transphobic abuse and violence. The creation of trans-only wings in prisons will allow people to stay close to their families. It will allow for support, guidance, counselling and extra help. And it will avoid that violence, and it will help to move us on to a safer society within our prison system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like to welcome the first speaker for the opposition, Mr. Andy Gillum.
In 1952, Christian Jorgensen returned home to the Bronx from America, the first woman to become well known for sexually assignment surgery. In a letter to friends at the time, she reflected, "Remember how shy and miserable a person I was when I left America? Well, that person is no more, and as you can see, I'm in marvellous spirits. Despite the great success of these liberal values, the move was met with much adversity, and Jorgensen spent most of the rest of her life fighting for her rights. In the 64 years that have passed since this event, much has changed. We now live in a world where blacks and whites are considered equal. Gays have become a new kind of culturally privileged class, where anyone who's cool owns a butt plug. Women, apart from Kanye West, women are at least ostensibly due equal workers' rights, and where it is completely acceptable to be single, live alone, and own 5 cats at age 23. It may be a surprise then to learn that gender variant people still face huge challenges to the most basic rights, having mined the depths of human discrimination. Liberals on all sides are faced with the zenith of what can be termed acceptable in an uninformed and uncaring society. Against this backdrop, trans prisoners, a minority within a minority, face the most harrowing circumstances. On the 13th of November last year, 21-year-old Vicky Thompson was found dead in her cell from suicide. In an alarming deja vu in December, Joanne Latham was found in similar circumstances. And the reason for this is because they were in the wrong prison. Tonight, the proposition suggests that the remedy is to create a new facility exclusively for trans prisoners of both sexes. Now, I commend them for this well-intentioned intervention, but I must urge the House that this is short-sighted, unnecessary, and possibly even disastrous solution to a complex, sensitive issue that has resonance with other vital issues. Now, there are 2 main dilemmas this proposal is attempting to remedy. And I'm going to summarise the first 2, explain what is wrong with them, and then list some other problems. The first is that trans prisoners who don't have a gender recognition certificate are sent to the prison of their birth gender most of the time. And the second is the greater risk trans prisoners face of abuse. I'm going to explain why the proposal is a tangential solution, either unnecessary or useless to resolving these 2 problems, and then I'm going to give you a list of new issues it would create. The first problem is related to a broader legal issue and can be seen as the next development in trans rights progress. Acquiring a gender recognition certificate is an arduous bureaucratic process that is receiving criticism from many fronts. There is, however, considerable pressure being applied to this. It is therefore easily conceivable that soon trans prisoners will be appropriately housed 100% of the time. In fact, it already happens in Scotland with their progressive system where human rights is allowed to trump gender reassignment, the Gender Reassignment Act. This anticipated progress resolves the issues prima facie of why there were 2 suicides last year. With this progress, which is likely alone, we've already resolved a lot of the problem of these tragic circumstances. In terms of the second problem, vulnerable people in prison is not a new thing. It has long been accepted that LGBT prisoners are at an increased risk of abuse, and it has long been the job of the prison service to manage this risk. What we should do is frame the problem in its broader context. Last year alone, there were over 30,000 cases of self-harm and nearly 19,000 cases of assault in UK prisons. There have been no cases reported that this was trans-related, although that is because we are doing a poor job of keeping records of trans inmates. The point to take away is that this is an institutional problem. Indeed, Robinson, a criminal law researcher, says of segregation proposals like the one being proposed tonight, that by designating just a sliver of its population as vulnerable, the jail may seek to absolve its constitutional responsibility, this is an American context, to protect all people in its custody. By removing transgender inmates but not attending to the hegemonic masculine norms, this jail simply shifts victimisation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a solution. This is a way for the prison service to absolve itself of real deep reforms. That is the first 2 problems dealt with, and now I will list some additional problems that arise from this new unit. The most important, gender variant people facing distress is not new. In fact, the primary source of their distress is their gender incongruence. And it's resolving this that should be the focus. Already the prison service, for financial and it can be argued ideological reasons, limits trans access to medical treatment and legal treatment. Correct policies are not followed, psychologists are coerced to be coerced into negative prescriptions. An approach known as freeze framing is widely used, where the person's transition is frozen from the time they enter the jail until they are allowed to leave. With funds being directed to a new facility, this will only get worse. Even more pertinent, a prerequisite for both medical and legal transition is that a person must show continued success in living in society in their acquired gender for 1 to 2 years. A trans-exclusive environment is not society. This tactless idea is playing right into the hands of those who wish to curtail trans rights and is giving authorities even more absolution to their ethical responsibilities. None of this has mentioned those gender-variant individuals who want to live in society. What of those amazing people who have overcome adversity, live successful, full lives, and want to continue that life, even if it means in jail? At least it's a regular jail. Are we just to send them into some new unit and tell them that they are vulnerable and that this is where they must exist? What about all the people whose minds have been changed by befriending fellow trans prisoners? History teaches us that these understated forces are what of relationships on the ground level are what really makes change. Are we simply going to segregate and obstruct cross-pollination of better attitudes? Also, on the first props point, can I just conclude? Dealing with the first props point. Research by Her Majesty's Inspectorate has concluded that there are good prisons for transgender people and bad prisons for transgender people. We need more good ones, not new segregated ones. The motion is a mistake of short-sighted activism and will go down in history as an aberration of true trans reform and reform more broadly, where the problem is controlled and not dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and can we give Valerie another round of applause for his maiden speech? I would like to welcome, closing for the proposition, Mr. Finbar Rogers.
Firstly, Miss Cannon, I went to a Catholic school and I can tell you it was very much like prison. I spent a lot of time trying to avoid buggery there too. Secondly, Mr. Dillon, thank you very much. Thank you for informing the House that transgender people are often discriminated against. I'm sure, like me, most people here live in caves because it's the cheapest accommodation you can afford in Strandlands. And so your wake-up call was wonderful. That was a great help. As I think's been alluded to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most prisons are already segregated on the basis of gender, apart from one in Peterborough, but no one lives there. And I can't, in the last few years, remember any serious debate for anyone calling for mixed gender prisons. So it seems we're all pretty much either committed or resigned to the status quo. And also in connection with that, it seems we're all pretty much on board with the idea that gender is a fluid thing and gender identities are a personal decision. And to try and impose that on someone else carries about as much water as a forest fire. So it seems a logical expansion of the status quo that there should be, not radical, not progressive, but logical, that there should be a wing of a prison, at least to be economical, or smaller prisons are better at curbing violence. So a separate prison altogether for transgender people, and also, as you sort of alluded to as well, that no one's really mentioned people who don't assign to any gender at all. So surely there should be one for them where they can live in part of a community, but not to have to be live there is being questioned or being met with violence. Of course, it would be preferable if there was no need for segregation at all. If discrimination or violence in whatever form it might take could be eradicated from society, but that would, to use a popular phrase, require such a cultural shift, which is not going to be achieved through the introduction of a white paper. You seem to be skipping off to some extent into Jeremy Corbyn's mind. A beautiful land full of wonder and mystical quantities, where there is no such thing as hatred and everyone can love each other and understand each other and learn from each other. But that is something that happens with time and through education. In the meantime, there is a massive problem with prisons. They are small pockets of violence, and there is something that can be done from that. But there are a lot of reforms that are needed in the prison service and the criminal justice system as a whole. But surely our first step, it should be practical solutions. Small, practical solutions, and the first of those should be merely getting people out of harm's way in a better way than merely putting them under a guard day and night and keeping them in solitary confinement, which is often the case with trans people in prison. And surely that is far more harmful. And also punishing the victim in the greatest possible way. And once again, this motion is nothing new, it's not radical, because there is more than enough precedent for it to pass. No thank you. We have the phenomenon of safe places in public zones for people of various sexual orientations, genders, or even race, where they can go and meet people of their community and have a nice, safe chat. Well, come on then.
Safe spaces for people to meet people with similar mindset or whatnot, but that is different from a lived experience where this space is where they will be 24/7.
So what, do you want prisoners to be let out into the open? They have to be there anyway because they are prisoners we're talking about. You had a point there, I forget your name. Carol.
Alright, so are you aware that there's also other measures you can take to, except from putting a guard next to someone 24/7, such as providing private shower or toilet facilities, or just punishing the perpetrators of crime rather than victims of crime?
Well, private shower facilities does seem to be solidly confined, although it is something that I take for granted every day. And also, yes, of course we should punish the perpetrators of crime, but that doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. What this motion seems to bring is putting them into a situation where that won't be an issue, because they will be within a community that understands their experiences already. And this is about as far as my interest goes in the motion, so I'm going to go and sit down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And closing for the opposition and closing the debate this evening is Mr. Kerwin von Blanken.
Alright, thank you very much for letting me speak here. What I'm going to do in my speech is elaborate a bit on the things that Andrew has already said to you. And I'm going to tell you, first of all, what the situation in these trans prison or trans wings would actually look like. Then I'm going to talk about the public perception of prison violence. And I'm going to talk about the public perception of transgender people in general, and how this affects violence and perpetuates violence in the prison system. But before I do that, I would really like to urge all of you to vote for this debate on behalf of on which side there will in the end be less violence for transgender people, but not only for transgender people, violence in general in prisons, right? So first, a very quick point of rebuttal on the side of government. What will the situation in these trans wings actually look like, right? Because we should not assume that violence will immediately go away in these prisons, right? We should not assume that suddenly when you put transgender people only together, suddenly these people have a superior moral high ground and would never do anything to each other as non-trans people would do to non-trans people or trans people, right? Still, these are people who have been locked up for years, are sometimes deprived of sex and have certain urges, and in any population there will doubtlessly be some people who are going to be predators and who are going to target other people, right? So even in these trans wings, you're not going to completely make those people completely 100% safe. This will become relevant later on. Right. So then to the public perception of prison violence in trans. Because not only in conventional prisons are you going to not completely eradicate violence, or in trans prisons, also in conventional prisons there's still going to be violence, right? Because other groups are already being targeted, as Andrew said, and if predators don't have the access anymore to transgender people, they will simply seek other targets. So what is very important in this case is that we look at how society views violence in prisons. Because there seems to be this view in society that violence is sort of synonymous with prisons, that it's completely normal that this happens in prisons, right? For example, it's perfectly not okay to make rape jokes, but suddenly when someone is going to prison, you see jokes appearing of, whoops, I dropped the soap, and no one actually bats an eye when that happens because people think, well, rape is just something that happened, right?
Yeah.
And actually Finbar is sort of exemplifies his statement when he says, yes, prisoners are pockets of violence, and violence just happens there. So why is this really bad, right? There's certain things why people do this, right? In a moment. So people might see this because they think, well, they're prisoners, they deserve it anyway, or this just is mindset that has ingrained in people's mind because of the way the prison is portrayed in, for example, the media. But the bad thing about this is that it makes people unaware that we can actually make structural differences, right? It gives the idea that in order to do something against violence, we cannot eradicate it, so we should, in Finbar's word, first get people out of harm's way instead of making structural changes to the prison system. Why is this bad? I'm going to argue that actually getting people out of harm's way is going to take up a lot of political capital, right? The reason why we're suddenly having this debate about prison violence is because of the LGBT movement calling out about the rights of homosexuals and the rights of transgender people in prison. Before this happened, no one was really thinking about this, right? And why are we thinking about it now? Because we think it's absolutely bad that people are getting targeted just because of their sex and just because of for example, that they had a sex change. So we see that currently a lot of people are thinking about this, and a lot of people are willing to invest some sort of effort and political capital into this. But if you're going to say we should just get people out of harm's way, this is going to have the first couple of effects, right? As I've already proven to you, it won't stop violence, so it will mean that it will take even longer before the structural changes are going to take in place if you first get them out of harm's way and then implement structural changes. Second of all, these transgender prisoners are suddenly not going to be a separate case that are always going to be targeted, right? So a lot of the people's attention that has now been there only because transgender people are being attacked by other people is going to fade away because this will not be an issue any longer. Transgender people will be attacked by transgender people, non-transgender people will be attacked by non-transgender people, and people will then resort to this sort of thing, yeah, but this happens anyway because we cannot do anything about this because it's just the way prison works in the moment. So in the end, this is just going to exhaust political capital as well, because people get the idea in their mind that it has already been solved. And if you come to the door again, but there's still issues, they're going to say, well, no, we have already done something about this. We need to do other things first. Thank you very much. Yes?
Is political capital not just a term used by weak politicians? I mean, someone like Lyndon Johnson would have said, if you're going to vote my way, and in return for which I might remember some of your names. That is the only way that reforms that you're saying are required is going to happen.
Well, I don't think necessarily that is only in that case that it's going to happen, right? Because there's a lot of easy things that you can actually do. I already mentioned something like DOI. Andrew's already said that we should make a start by assigning people to their preferred gender. And indeed, private shower facilities doesn't mean complete isolation from other people. And we can just impose stricter controls and actually put harder measures against the people who perpetrate violence rather than punishing the ones who are victims of this, right? So what is very important here is that we're going to take the structural changes, because if we're just going to put people away, we're going to lose a lot of political capital, which in the end means that because there's still going to be violence, because there is no structural change in trans wings, there's also going to be that structural violence still in conventional prisons. So in the end, it's just going to make the violence last longer. Second thing is, or a third argument actually, is that a lot of transgender people don't actually want to be transgender just because they think it's the coolest thing ever to be transgender, right? It's generally, or it's just always people who are convinced of the feeling that they are a woman trapped inside the body of a man, or a man trapped inside the body of a woman, which means that they want to see themselves as either a man or either a woman or whatever preferred gender they have, and they also want to see society the way that they want to see themselves, right? What you're actually doing with these kind of measures is saying as a prison, no, we don't want to impose these structural changes. We want to actually offer the easy way out and tell you that you are not really a real man or you're not really a real woman. We create a separate category for you in our prisons and put you in trans because we're just too lazy to make the structural changes to make you actually safe in the environment that you want to be in and that you want to be seen. And this is a lot of psychological harm for these prisoners as well, right? And moreover, this is a very bad thing because if they say you have the option to go there, a lot of court cases concerning transgender people in prisons, for example, women who see a transgender woman coming into the prison and feel that they're infringing, and because of certain bigotry or because they have certain prejudices, see them as infringing and want to get them away, right? They're targeted because they are seen as a danger to them, and because they simply don't understand that that person actually feels like a woman as well. So if you're getting people the option of actually going into a trans wing, they might very well be coerced by other people in the wing that they're originally based in, right? If you are a transgender woman in a women's wing, and those women think, well, if we make the situation very, very unsafe for you, you will go away because you will then go to a transgender wing. It's actually far more likely that they will actually impose physical harm on you just to create a situation where you are going to another place. So for all of these reasons, we are very, very proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we'll move on to a few questions. So we will take questions for the proposition, opposition, and then abstentions on the motion. So does anybody have any questions for the proposition this evening to these guys? Yes, stand up and speak for that, please.
Raymond Alexander. For the proposition, can you just clarify for me the definition of transgender? Is this one person who has completed the sexual reassignment surgery or before?
Very good.
No, so we believe that the current status quo in the requirement of a legal gender reassignment certificate is complete rubbish. Your gender is your personal definition of your gender, and this is how these things will be assigned.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a question for the opposition to these guys? No? Okay, we'll move on. Any sort of abstentions on the motion? Any general sort of topics? Anything that you feel like we've missed? Yes.
Hey Rosie, have any of you actually asked the trans person what they would be like happiest doing?
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go proposition and then opposition. You'll answer from each side, please.
Well, no, because that would be rather insulting to them. I'd be assuming they are going to at some point in the future commit a crime.
Yes, opposition?
Should I stand up? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay, so even if you would do that, it would probably not be representative for all transgender people. I think there's a lot of differences of some people actually wanting to go to a transgender wing, or some people actually wanting to stay in either a male or a female facility. So that could be highly personal as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for the proposition to these guys? Yes, start sitting there, please.
Matt Watkins. It's for the first proposition. You said it's important to bring in these transgender prisons to stop attacks from minorities such as trans people. Why do you think it's important to focus on trans rather than all of the minorities in prisons who may be subject to attacks or bigoted?
Because that is what the motion is.
So I think at the moment we've become a lot more accepting of homosexual people and way, way more accepting of different races. And I think currently, as the status quo stands, transgender people are a really big kind of minority and don't have this kind of general acceptance in society for some reason.
There's less recognition for it.
Well, that's the next proposition.
So, then you kind of put me off my point now. Largest kind of minority in society that have the least protection, and I really think that in the creation of kind of transgender wings that would of course be optional depending on people's personal preferences, it then allows us to kind of tackle the other violence in the system, which has been kind of more widely what am I saying? That's of the people that are more widely accepted by society, and it allows those problems to be tackled and change perceptions and change ideas in order to kind of then use that to aid the acceptance of transgender people in society.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, briefly.
Having been accused of having a form type mindset, whatever that there is, I find that there is equally, or in fact that is much more optimistic than anything I said. To say that gay people and that people of different races and other minorities are actually treated better than the hyper-masculinized or masculinized culture that is in prison is wishful thinking. And then also on the point, you hold premises assuming that there's no such thing as a violent transgender prisoner, but there definitely is. A recent example is Davina Curtin, who actually raped a young girl. And the same problem would therefore exist in a new wing.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have questions to the opposition? Yes? Yes.
Right, so, the thing about the fact that, I don't know, can't remember if it was the proposition or the opposition that said that, trans people, there's no sort of distinction between, male or female, the certificate or whatever that they have is so, uncertain that if it were the case that a man were to just say, because things might be easier in a female person or whatever, they say, just pretend to be a transgender for a while. Like, if I was sort of arrested and had to go to jail, I would pretend to be, so I'd just be in the women's prison instead of the guy's prison. I would be a minority, but I'd be okay with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Quick comment on that? Sort of abusing the system?
Did you say anything, sir?
Could it be to the proposition? I think the proposition were the ones speaking.
I guess it's more of a point of sense because
we'll just take an abstain on the motion.
I can make a comment that has been kind of moved forward, that there is a bit of a red herring kind of to distract from the more pertinent issues. I don't really think that's a realistic risk. And the assessment protocols that are put in place whenever we're placing prisoners are usually meant to read that type of thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any points of abstaining on the motion? Sort of general points, anything you think the speaker probably missed? Yes?
No, on the merits. I think the point that people will pretend to be one gender or the other to get in to a women's prison or to a men's prison will subject them to the same experiences as trans people. They already experience in men's prisons, women's prisons, where they're in the wrong prisons, which is widespread sexual and legal violence. So that's very unlikely to happen. In terms of just some clarification, gender recognition doesn't come into this. It's prison policy, and it's Department of Justice policy which comes into that. This could be turned over in a day with the Ministry of Justice just updating some very basic policy. In terms of segregation, there isn't a single national trans organisation in the whole of the world which supports segregated prisons because it de facto creates psychiatric units, it de facto creates solitary confinement where there isn't a large trans population, and where there is a large trans population, usually due to harsh sex work and drug drug laws, what it usually develops is intra-prison crime networks and widespread sexual and physical violence within those wings as well.
Brief comment on that point from either side, or is it's okay. Quiet tonight. Okay, so we'll go for one more round for questions. So back to the proposition. These other guys, give them a chance to defend their views. Who's itching for it? Go for it.
Okay, well, since I just want to say, you see, if the fact that we want to really create transgender prisons, is this not making the criminal life more attractive for transgender people? Like say, okay, let me do this crime, it's not going to be that bad, like I'll get to meet other transgender people.
I'll be part of the community.
Because the fact that this, yes, as bad as it is, the fact that prison is a bad place is a deterrent, for not going to prison,
Okay, thank you.
I don't think anybody wants to be in prison.
Do you want a point of clarification?
Yeah.
The point of clarification is that the fact is that if it is that some people will obviously weigh in the fact that what am I going to get? What are going to be the outcomes of my actions? Is it that I'm going to go to a place where I'm going to be probably killed or tortured or whatever, or the fact that I'm going to somewhere where it wouldn't be that bad, let me steal something or let me do
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think prisoners are that smart. If they were, they wouldn't get caught.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Question for the opposition, get me a bit more variety here. Keep down. Question for the opposition, please. Please sit up, gentlemen. Okay, abstaining the motion, these seem to be popular. Any questions abstaining on the particular motion tonight? Proposition? I saw a few hands for proposition. Yes, that's
the first speaker very eloquently spoke about the support that a left wing or that a wing would provide for transgender people. What kind of support would that actually entail? Because I think we're speaking about security. Would that just mean keeping them in there and guarding them?
No. So what I'm talking about here is specialised counselling, specialised help, if that's required. And only if it's required. It's not something that's going to be forced upon people. And the support that would be offered would be, of course, extra security if that was required, the ability to feel safe in reporting crime within the prison, but also the ability to be part of the prison population as well, but just that added extra bit of security. It's not isolationist, it's not trying to separate people. It's just allowing that little bit of extra security and that little bit of extra help.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we've sort of circled back around again. Okay, last points. Opposition? Any questions to the opposition? Was that a hand? Or yes,
I just have a comment.
Yes, of course.
Our question was just sort of like, where do you stop when you start separating people in wings? If you're victimizing someone by their sexuality or gender, where do you stop? By race? Let's put black people, white people there. Let's put Muslims there. Let's put Christians there.
America does it already.
No, I know. A lot of places do this, right? But it's like, where do you stop if you're going to start implementing these kind of segregational laws and these people are special when you put them here and that? It's just it just tends to just escalate to the point where it's ridiculous because everyone can be victimized for something.
Can I get your name?
Oh, Danny.
Okay, can we have a brief point on that, please?
Like I said, this is a practical solution until a better idea is thought of and can be implemented.
And a final point, please guys, and a final point, abstaining on the motion.
Would you mind if I just commented on, sorry, I didn't mention.
Yes, of course, shut up please.
Yes, thank you. Danny, you just mentioned about segregation and stuff there. The experience of separating loyalist and Republican prisoners in Her Majesty's Prison in Yabry has, I know about this here, I work there to volunteer with prisoners. The issue has actually grown to this extent that prisoners want to become part of that gang. They want to enter that part of the prison and be part of the gang mentality, just for a clarification.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, that response. That's a very valid point. Okay, guys, please. If this bell would work every time I rang it, I would ring it at you constantly. Okay, I think on that, on James's final point there, did you hear his final point? Could you stand up and repeat?
I was responding to the other one.
You were talking, he didn't hear.
I think it's in poor taste to compare transgender people to members of a gang.
Yes, I'm great. Finn Barb. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your... No, we can't respond to them. Thank you very much for interesting debate, interesting questions. So we will now move to a vote. So the first vote is based on your personal opinion, so it's whether you agree with the motion or not, or abstain. So if you believe that this House should implement trans-only prisons, please raise your hand and say aye. Am I the only one? I'm not voting. Okay, 0?
No.
And if you disagree with the motion, you believe that we should not implement trans-only prisons, please raise your hand and say nay.
Nay.
Hand required.
Oh right, yeah, sorry, I'll keep them up.
28. And all those abstaining the motion? 4. Okay, thank you very much. And I would like you to please take out your shiny membership cards. If you haven't yet got a membership card, there'll be £5. You can see Robbie afterwards. And just to clarify, your £5 membership lasts for until the end of the year, and you get discounted prices to the formal. I believe the discounted price is £5.
What is this formal?
But yeah. So lots of membership benefits, please, guys. It's working better. Yeah, okay, so membership cards. All those who are members, could you please... I believe you. Gemma is our secondary representative. Okay, so all of those who... Zen, okay. This vote is based on speaker ability. So this is the vote that will be recorded for our minutes and will go down in history as something. So all those who think that the proposition spoke better tonight on the motion of convincing you, please raise your hand and say aye. You can raise your hand if you like. No. Okay, 0. And all of those who think that the opposition spoke better tonight, please raise your membership cards and say aye.
No, give me cards.
See you after the debate, guys. And all those abstaining in the motion?
James.
Sorry, apologies. All of those who think the speaker spoke equally good or equally rubbish, please raise your membership cards. 4. Okay, that's it. I believe that the opposition have won the debate for this evening. Yes?
I just had a one before if that's alright?
Yes, of course, yes.
Sorry.
Please.
Sorry, just because the convener for UCD Lowestoft keeps on nagging me to ask you. Basically, the National Maidens are on the 11th of March, which is the second weekend of March. It's a National Maidens IV competition, which happens in UCD Dublin. So it's a 2-day competition. Everyone else who goes there is a maiden speaker who's in their first year of debating. They're relatively inexperienced. It's all very laid back, so there won't be anyone who stands up and gives a Nelson Mandela style speech and makes you crawl up into a ball and die. It's all very laid back. There's a really good social at the end of it. It's in the middle of Dublin, so you'll probably end up at Temple Bar at 4 a.m. in the morning, wonder where the hell you are. We're holding a cold slipperbacks. So yeah, if you're interested in that, mostly the slipperbacks part at the end of the getting drunk. By all means, approach me again on Facebook and I shall sign you up. If you talk to me, I'll get you the details of the red fees and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Quickly go over the announcements again. So Schools competition is on the 24th and it'll be held in the SU. Please Facebook us and find out the information. Secondly, RIV is next weekend. Free membership, free drinks, free pizza, 5 rounds of debating, fantastic. Get judged by this side of Europe class judges, and it'll be really good. And we are going to, what's the motion next week? I should know. Oh, sorry. Next week's motion is this House believes Kardashians have ruined society as we know it. So if you would like, I think. Sorry, guys. That was my fault. Apologies. Next week's motion is this House believes the Kardashians have ruined society as we know it. So please come and watch that motion. And now we're going to go to the House Bar to finish off the evening and to continue debating it further.
No, I'll go with you guys. Can you just give me 5 minutes?